Yo, what up guys, it's Flark. And, alright, you win. I will make videos before the season starts. I was originally not going to, because the meta shifts and develops a lot during the first week of the season, especially in a new expansion, and there's a lot of new comps, there's a new class, there's a lot of new specs that can be good or bad, and that's going to shape how we want to build our characters. But the second I hit 70, my Twitch stream, the DK Discord, my own Discord, it was filled to the brim. It was an explosion of questions. Dual wield versus two-hander, Frost versus Unholy, disease build versus wound build versus pet build. How do I build these things? How do I build the two-hander build? How do I choose between piercing chill and enduring chill, the chill streak talents? And there's a lot of questions. And all I said the entire time was, gee, I don't know. And I realized at the first bit, I was kind of overwhelmed, maybe even irritable, you know me. It's tough to answer those questions 40 minutes into level 70. But then I realized something. I realized that people care about my opinion on these things. And that's pretty dang awesome. Also, probably they say this nerd plays 30 hours of World of Warcraft a day. That's not even mathematically possible, so I have to agree with what he's saying, right? So they probably have some of that there too, and they're right, I do play a lot of World of Warcraft. But that's cool. So I did something. I played a lot of World of Warcraft. For about 18 straight hours. I geared my character completely and theorycrafted immensely, and I created some beautiful builds for Frost Unholy, and I created guide material that I can make and be happy with now, because that was one of the problems. I didn't want to give you guys false information. So instead of making the Season 1 compendium first, I started off with these guides, starter guides, to Dragonflight Season 1 PvP for Frost Unholy, and that should get you immersed in the build development, the theory craft, the content, the gearing, and everything, so you can start practice and honing your skills and fundamentally understanding all your cooldowns and how your character plays, so you can be ready for Dragonflight Season 1 as any DK spec. And that I'm happy with. And then afterwards, once the season goes on for a bit, I will make my compendiums, my definitive guides, and we're both happy. I hope you guys like it. Thank you guys for inspiring this in-between video, and I hope you're having a wonderful time with Dragonflight. Okay, so let's talk about gear. Gearing is a lot easier in Dragonflight. There are two main sources of getting gear right now, Honor and Bloody Tokens. Honor and Bloody Tokens gear can both be found in this building that I'm circling 100 times on my map, so go find it. And of course, you got the Honor Quartermaster right here. You can get Honor from BGs, skirms, epic battlegrounds. You guys know the drill, and you can buy the pieces right here. But on the other side of the building, you can get Bloody Tokens gear from this fellow. And that has 3 item levels less than Honor gear, but it also has a tier set on it. Again, this is Bloody Tokens gear. You can find it right here, and that tier set gives you versatility and also a nice heal, or an absorb, when you are stunned for 10 seconds. So they actually have to go through that when you're stunned once every 2 minutes, so pretty much the first go. It's worth grabbing and losing the 3 item levels for. So you might as well try and find some Bloody Tokens that you can get from World PvP and World PvP quests. You can also upgrade your gear from this guy right here, but you don't have to. That upgrade is for your PvE item level. PvE item level being dungeons, raids, or the open world. If you notice, the PvP gear immediately scales to 411. Even at upgrade 1 out of 5, it's instantly going to maximum. That's incredible. So when you upgrade stuff, it's actually just making you more powerful in the rest of the world. But in a PvP environment, you're maxed out immediately, which is fantastic. It gets you in there, gets you on an open playing field, and if you still want something to work for, you can make yourself stronger in the rest of the world. So that's fantastic, which means all you really have to do is figure out what stats you need. So let's talk about it. All right, so stats for Unholy. Right above my head here, you're going to see a little graphic for stat weights. Of course, versatility is king, but it's also a little bit out of the equation. You don't need to think about it. You just have it. You have versatility on every piece of gear that you're going to buy, right? So it's not something you make decisions about. You just have the versatility that you need. And of course, you have enough of it as well, so you don't need to gem or enchant it either. You just have versatility. So it's your best stat, but it's out of the way. What you're really thinking about is, okay, then what do I build for crit, haste, or mastery? And that's a fantastic question. As you'll see from my graphic, I believe that haste is slightly better than mastery, and both of them are way better than crit. Crit is just a dead stat for Unholy. You don't really need it for anything. It's just an output stat, but it's worse than mastery in every way because it is nerfed in a PvP environment. Now, I personally believe haste edges out mastery for 2 reasons. One, haste does fantastically well with Festermite, which we're going to be running in every build. We're going to talk about that in a second, because it stacks your Festermite strength very quickly. The faster globals you have, the more rune generation you have, the more wounds you can spend, and thus the more strength that you get. Mastery doesn't affect your ability to stack Festermite at all, but haste absolutely does, which makes haste kind of like an output stat and on top of all the things that haste was already doing to make it an output stat, right? It also just makes it a raw output stat by giving you more strength, which is just an output stat, right? So that's really good. It also helps you stack your gargoyles faster, which makes an output stat. And of course, at the beginning of an expansion, you just don't have a lot of secondaries, which can make Unholy feel very sluggish. At the beginning of last expansion, you'll know that we had so many setup globals and no real way to get them off, right? Because we were so slow. But now, with haste, and then Empower, and then Unholy Assault, we don't have that sluggishness problem. Unholy might be good in a Season 1 for the first time in 10 years. Unholy is looking to be incredible even in Season 1, like astronomically good. And that's really, really exciting. I think haste is very important for smoothing out those setup globals, for building the Festermites, for building the big gargoyles, even for like your CC, right? Like doing blind and stun. You don't want to be on the longest global of your life when you're just trying to stun a healer on a cast, or grip a healer on a cast, or grip blind a healer, which you can do now as Unholy. Incredible, right? So haste, king stat. You still need mastery for some output, so I got a ring with it. You can get a necklace too if you really want more mastery. I just got the ring, but you can easily switch your jewelry to switch your stats with a 600 honor. Snap your fingers. If you need more mastery, you're like, okay, I've got a ton of haste like he does, but I just feel a little bit, weak. Then you could just grab the mastery ring like I have and then swap the necklace to mastery. It's that simple. You really just snap your fingers and it's done. All right? So, lots of haste, good amount of mastery, versus from your gear already, and crit sucks. Easy. All right, so how about your weapon? Two-handed weapon with RUNEFORGES Crusader. Easy. Well, how about your enchants? All right. Well, we talked about haste being really good, and then there's some speed enchants. The rest of this stuff is like really expensive right now, and we get our most important enchant, RUNEFORGES, for free. So you don't have to worry too much about that until the season starts. Trinket is pretty important. You notice I have a badge, and that's because it's really good at all-inning, and that's fast games and give you more honor, so that's what I was doing. It's also really good with Gargoyle because you can just press it. As you ramp up your Gargoyle, you can just press it late into the Gargoyle, and all of a sudden he'll just start shredding because he's got the damage bonus from the ramp up, and then your badge. But Insignia over the entire course of the season will probably end up being more valuable, because Unholy has a lot of sustain, and Disease build has a lot of sustain, and Pet build even has a lot of sustain because your pets are always chunking. And Insignia just seems good because it can proc multiple times, last longer. It's just very strong for that. 1 minute goes, not really part of Unholy right now, so this is just kind of an all-in trinket. Think of it like that. Badge is not a 1 minute go, it's just an all-in trinket. You just press it when you're doing the overwhelming go at the beginning. Insignia is the sustain frequent goes, because none of our cooldowns really are a minute. They all have modifiers to make them lower cooldowns. So, okay, and that's your gear. Make sense? Of course, you're going to get the Gladiator's Medallion. Don't even think about adaptation. I don't even have to talk. I should not have to talk about that. But yeah, there you go. Okay, Unholy Talents now. So I stayed up and theorycrafted and skirmed and BG'd for about 10 hours. And I'm glad that I did, because what I came up with, I am thrilled with. I believe that these wholeheartedly are the best things you can run. They are absolutely destructive. Top damage every BG, skirms, people die instantaneously. It is remarkable. They work synergistically. They work logically. The theorycraft there is sound. So there's two builds here. And I know what you're thinking. Well, there's a BG only build we'll get to at the end, but there's really 2 builds for general use. And I know what you might be thinking, like, that doesn't make any sense. I thought there were like 4 builds before. How are there less now? And it's because we fuse the best components of a lot of the 4 builds from before into 2 main builds. Isn't that crazy? We would have a third, and we use that with the Festermite synergy, with the Disease synergy, and how those compound upon each other, which I'll talk about in just a second. But the reason there isn't a third is because hybridizing Disease and Pets doesn't really make any sense. Pets and Disease don't really complement each other. Morbidity is the only thing that increases pet damage, and all the pet capstones here do not buff anything but pet damage. So it's like running diseases and then Unholy Aura. Well, that doesn't make sense. Well, Commander of the Dead, well, that doesn't buff diseases either, right? So it doesn't make a lot of sense. But the other side, Shadow Rot, Death Rot, that makes your Shadow do more damage, which increases your disease damage. Fester Might gives you more strength, which increases your disease damage. Unholy Assault gives you more haste, which allows you to stack up Fester Might faster, which makes you do more damage overall, including more disease damage, right? So those have tons of inherent synergy. So now we have these powerful amalgamations of all the best things of the old build combined into two different builds. So let's talk about them. First, diseases. We know the disease package, that's Super Strain, which I've been hovering over for a long time here. Morbidity. Of course, we have Eben Fever to make it diseases do more damage. Unholy Blight to give you another disease. You have Plague Bringer to make your diseases do more damage, of course. So right, that's a lot of the disease package. And then you grab the Fester Might package, which I was just talking about. More magic damage, more strength. Unholy Assault is just a no-brainer. Haste is fast globals and gives you those Scourge Strikes to make your diseases proc faster, and also 2 burst wounds so you can do damage and build up Fester Might stacks. Then we have a little bit where this differs from the PvE build. Of course it will, because we have Necrotic Wounds, which makes wounds bursting all at the same time, or applying more wounds really, really, really good. Because we have Necrotic Wounds, it absorbs healing, it's an MS effect, and also heals us for a ton. So we want APOC, burst a bunch of wounds at once, put that huge stack of Necrotic Wounds on them. That's a huge burst window where you make them harder to heal and take more damage. Raise A-Bomb. Of course, you have to, if you're ever going to pick Army of the Dead, you have to pick Raise A-Bomb, because otherwise this does literally nothing in PvP. But Raise A-Bomb, more wound application. He also applies disease. Watch this. Watch. I put Raise A-Bomb down. He put diseases on every single thing, as well as Super Strain diseases, and he starts applying wounds. That's what he does. He's very cool. He's actually a good guy. Respect this guy just a little bit, but yeah, Raise A-Bomb here. You need to run that PvP talent, but he will apply your diseases, save your rune generation, give you wounds, more wounds for Necrotic Wounds, more wounds for Fester Might. That's awesome. And you can make both APOC, which we talked about, and Raise A-Bomb faster cooldowns. APOC by 45 seconds, and then Death Coil, which you'll be pressing a lot, trust me, will reduce the cooldown of Raise A-Bomb, giving you even more damage, more spread pressure, more disease application. Fast Dark Transform is great. Magus of the Dead actually is better in PvP because he applies from, you saw when I put down that Raise A-Bomb. Let's take a look at my meters. Magus of the Dead, right there, baby. Right? So Raise A-Bomb, much faster cooldown than Army of the Dead, which means you get actual Maguses up pretty often, which is great for a 3s environment. You have a little bit of the Death Coil package. Death Coil Cleave, which is great for rotting people, dealing more damage. Sudden Doom for the procs, so you can actually get them off, because sometimes you have to be death striking, but if you have a free Death Coil, you can always press that, and that gives you longer Dark Transformations, which is just more damage, and of course, faster Raise A-Bombs. So all of these things neatly synergize together, and when you run it, you will see that. Your raw output is just going to shock you. It's really going to be shocking. You have so many buttons that feel so good to press, and even when you can't press buttons because you're CC'd, you're still rotting everybody to death. Kind of like that traditional Unholy playstyle. So, you have the Unholy Assault into APOC. You get the Limb out, the Dark Transform. You get the Raise A-Bomb, Unholy Blight. You start bursting with Scourge Strike to build up the Fester Might stacks, and then all your diseases tick faster, and you put in the Unholy Blight, and you just got Morbidity for days, and everything takes more damage, and you get a little bit of Ghoulish Frenzy. You can't get both of these, unfortunately, but even that makes you have more modifiers, and this is just surreal, constant, undeniable output. Okay, so what could be better than that? Well, not a lot, but the pet build's still really good. So let's take a look at that real quick. Okay, so now we're moving on to the pet build, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be self-explanatory for what capstone we're going down for the pet side, but in case you want to see it visually, of course, we have Summon Gargoyle, which is a big pet that cranks, and when fully built up, I swear this guy's hit for 400k before, over the course of his duration, which kind of feels like Wrath value. He was like 30% of my damage. Oh my god, it's fun having Gary be strong again, and he really is, especially when you buff him with Unholy Aura, which makes all of your pets do 20% more damage. Oh, and Commander of the Dead, which makes him and your Army of the Dead do 35% more damage. Well, that means, of course, you need Army of the Dead, so you're getting APOC. And then you want more pets, so you're running Magus. And then you want Raise A-Bomb, which is a pet that does more damage. Oh, and it summons another Magus. Oh, and you can make them both shorter cooldown from Army of the Damned, which includes faster Maguses, which is another pet that does more damage. And then you get another pet from All Will Serve, and then you can make your pet stronger by having Dark Transform and the faster Dark Transform and the longer Dark Transform. Oh, and you can make Gary do more shadow damage from Death Rot, more overall damage from Festermite, and you can have more haste, which makes your pets attack faster from Unholy Assault, and boom! The synergy is obviously there, right? The synergy is obviously there, but you have enough talents left over to add the Death Coil package and complete what I think is the only thing that can rival the disease build, because now you also have Clawing Shadows for ranged wounds bursting, range damage from Death Coil and Cleave, more Death Coils from Harbinger of Doom, which is more free Death Coils to buff your Gargoyle, and those free Death Coils make your Clawing Shadows hit harder. All of this, plus your range damage from Magus of the Dead, and Risen Skulker, and Gargoyle, and A-Bomb, and Dark Transform pets, and fast APOC, and fast Raise A-Bomb. Wow, the single target burst pressure sustain is all unbelievable. You're going to be rapid firing Death Coils to buff an absurd Gargoyle. The range pressure is going to be unpeelable and nuclear. So this is the only thing I could come up with that has as much side-by-side power as the disease build. So you got two diseases and pets. But also there is a secret third one. This is a warning label. This isn't a build. This is a warning. It says BGs only because you would never ever play this anywhere but Battlegrounds. But I just wanted to go over it real quick because technically it's completely insane. And I'm even going to show it on the dummies. Okay, so with this build, and I didn't really want to talk about each individual talent because it's just very silly, but it does play off the fact that you can have like a lot of AoE wound generation from Vile Contagion that spreads them all, and then Pestilence to apply more AoE, and then all of these wound bursting effects that you can now burst on everybody while applying necrotic wounds to everybody, and getting all those wounds makes your Festermite stack immediately, which gives you huge cleave damage, then Epidemic cleaves and Super Strain Rot, and then Defile, double Defile from Death's Echo, right? And then all of a sudden, you have this non-stop torrent of AoE damage, but it only works when there's enough targets to make it work. And that's why this has the warning label, BGs only. Okay, because otherwise this build is just ridiculous. But let me show you on the dummies because it's actually pretty funny. But drop your A-Bomb down. You Festering Strike to get a full set, then you apply them to everything. And then you just start going through your entire rotation. Here, watch this. You're gonna get a Defile down. You've got so many buttons to press, but you're going to immediately stack up. Look at this. Look at my strength right now. And you can just see it. Oh my God, you never run out of buttons to press. Now I can D&D and re-burst all these wounds. Look at my breakdown. Look at the Bursting Sores, Unholy Blight, Epidemic. Oh my God. You can't even spend all the wounds. There's too many of them. You can't even spend all your runic power. You can't spend your Death Coil procs. You're just never, you're like a fucking ball. An oozing orb of damage. You're actually a disease, honestly. You're actually contagious. Like, this build is just constant AoE damage. It only would ever work in BGs in a massive team fight where everybody's stacked. It's very silly, and it applies necrotic wounds to everybody, which means they're all going to be healing you and having another MS on everybody. Wow. But please don't take that into an arena. Please, please. BGs only. I'll link in the description below. BGs only. Okay. I just wanted to show you that. It's stupid, though. All right. So now we're going over to the left side of the talent trees, and there are too many small changes you can make to make a loadout for every single one. So in each loadout, I gave you like a baseline, like kind of a default talents that you would run, but you have to know the niche talents or the specific talents or the matchup based talents and what they do to make sure that you understand how to switch these in the arena. And this is what's going to be way more important when the season actually starts. But look at this. You can drop Unholy Bond and you can access some things. So what against casters, right? You got short AMS, AMZ. Okay. Well, what about physical? You got short IBF. You can even run Permafrost because your auto attacks are actually very fast from all your haste, and you're running a two-handed weapon, so it hits pretty hard and gives you a decent shield. You can even run Pact if you don't want to run that route and have a quick heal when you're getting bursted to get you another bit of breathing room so your healer can pop a cooldown on you and you can stabilize. Or if you're not getting targeted at all, you can just put them right back into your RUNEFORGE effects, right? And then you just do way more output, right? So based on whether you're playing against casters, against physical damage, you're just the target overall and you need as much defensive as you can possibly get, you're going to drop various output related things. You could even drop like maybe a Lichborn wall and strength and kind of work your way through all of these things to make you tanky, right? So these are not, like that would be 50 builds for all the loadouts that you could possibly based on what comps you're playing, what comps you're playing against, what you see on the enemy team. But you just kind of have to know what the talents do. Like, I mean, magic. They made it so easy on us. Magic, physical, all absorbs, but probably just physical because your magic absorb is here and it's better, right? So that's the left side. I gave you guys a default thing that you can work with. That should be helpful. I give you a default build that you can work with, and the rest is kind of in your hands based on what you know about what classes do what type of damage. I mean, look, Frost, magic damage. Frost Mage, magic damage. Fire Mage, magic damage, right? Windwalker, physical damage. Arms Warrior, physical damage, right? We just got to change the talents based on that, and I'll have plenty of videos, like know your comp videos, once the season actually starts. But that you're going to have to be patient for. And that, my friends, is the end of my starter guide. Of course, the compendiums, the big compendiums at the end, we're going to have rotations and comps, but I don't know what comps there are yet, and I don't know what comps you're going to play yet because the season has not started. But you can look for the Dragonflight definitive guides once the season starts, and they're going to be formatted kind of like this. You know, gear, stats, talents. Then I'll go into PvP talents for Unholy because I didn't even bother touching that right now because it's very difficult to slot them in and it depends on how the meta is paced. And then we'll do rotation and then we'll do comps at the end and there'll be timestamps for everything. But I hope this guide was able to get you ready on the right track, building your character, talents, practicing your cooldowns, understanding what builds are probably going to look very, very good come the start of the season, and do a lot of damage in BGs so you get your honor gear more quickly. And that's what I got for you guys. I'll see you when the season starts. Thank you for talking me into this. Peace.